Trying to make sure that they all have. My mouth is usually enough.
Not in not a chance.
And the director of risk management and IT for General Motors is one of my faculty members, and he just made a job offer to 3 of my grants. Somebody else was asking if I had someone who would be willing to move out to Seattle. Hey, how about you? I'm good. How are you?
You can be right there. Give Charles his bag out.
Is Charles today?
It's Charles. Yeah.
He's now up there.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Suresh. So we have historically just kind of taken notes of stuff that's there, and at the end we've come up with like best in show or best overall, best in show, best number of students, best new project, best team. Sometimes if we've got big teams. Yeah.
Because we try to make it encouraging. We want to make them come back, and what are there, 200 this time, I think? 200 participants this time.
Like, so.
Yeah, I gotta see if there's extra shirts. I'm trying to convince the university that I need to order these, but I think I'm just gonna order them and then say, oops, sorry, I bought them. Where are they gonna put them? We are at the third annual.
Hackathon area.
This is it. Yeah. Well, so they're going to change this and they'll put somewhere in here for the hackathon. So people can, you know, work. Yeah.
Start set aside an area. Something that I'm sure that friends from Philadelphia right now we're living in extension state code, which I refer to as a slum bubble. It's cheap and but we went down the street to the Marriott residence. They want more new places. Stay there a little longer for less money. But yeah, it does this one. Anyway, so she's trying to do what she can.
I don't blame Betty for it.
I was in San Diego. She really thought about doing the last week in San Diego. Get out early.
It's not a fun part. It's not a fun part.
But if it was doing in February,
Where is it?
San Diego.
Oh, I'll go to the page.
San Diego in January, February, whatever it is.
As opposed to Vermont
Yeah,
in February. Let me see how hard that would beat up.
so I usually go. I can't go this year because they're having a really early. And usually what I do is I go to
I'm
the
ready.
mall, and I go to the subway stop.
Really?
Does that mean you have to make a decision?
Anyway,
All right, folks. Oh, this one's a little louder, I think, which maybe is a good thing. Okay, so hopefully everyone got me your presentations. I've tried to, merge in all the pull requests. Worst case, if we get to the end and I don't have yours, we'll figure out. We'll do your presentation at the end. There's probably like 3 or 4 of you at least that I know of who want to either present off your own laptop, or if you've sent me an email, I'll try to access that and we'll get you at the end. But we'll start with all the ones that are in the GitHub, and I'll just kind of go through them in order to try to keep things simpler for me. but that gives you an idea of when you're up. So I'm just going to start from the top and work my way down. And if you can come on up, you can use my laptop, and it's a handheld microphone. And so to the judges, can you do 3.5 minutes? Okay. I told you 3 minutes, but we're actually going to give you a bonus 30 seconds and hope that works out okay. But you might get bonus points if you actually finish in 3. Okay, so do we have the SRV6 folks? around and ready to present. And I assume you want to do the PDF first and then the... Okay. All right, so we're 0 for 1. Let's try this with the next one. How about Acme Star? You guys here and ready? Okay, let me get you. You have a PDF. I can download that. Get rid of this.
Thanks. So I had two projects. One is LoLa, loss latency trade-off, and the other one is the Acme Star implementation. Okay, so I had two projects. One on Saturday, the LoLa loss latency trade-off, and the other one is that I did on Sunday today is the Acme Star implementation. So what's the LoLa thing? Is a draft that came out 1 year ago in the transport area. Is basically a div-serve marking scheme, which provides a super simplification over the usual div-serve model. The assumption here is that traffic belongs to either one of these two classes, loss sensitive or latency sensitive, and that's it. You mark the application, the endpoints, mark the traffic appropriately, and let the network do the right things in terms of scheduling. The difficult part for this is convincing the application, the endpoints, that marking their encrypted traffic is provides an advantage. So we had this discussion during the Marnew workshop and Jakor both, and the discussion stalled because we had no data. So the main reason behind this effort is to provide the automated testing facility to actually collect the data and decide whether the mechanism actually works in practice and provides the advantage that it promises. So yesterday, I've worked on this, and what I had was already, I prepared the flow mix and the queuing implementation. So the focus yesterday was around data analysis. So I ran the flow mix through the queues and took raw packet captures at various places. And then what I had done is correlating them when needed, visualizing interesting stats. In particular, I was interested in queuing latency and drop patterns in relation to the flow mix dynamics. In practice, this effort was a couple hundred lines of T-Shark, Oak, and R. The later was a first for me, and I've enjoyed the superpowers of it a lot. And then today I've worked on Acme Star. This is a draft that we had just adopted in the Acme working group. It is an extension to the Acme protocol to automate the certificate renewal. So Acme provides issuance, automated issuance, and this one extends the thing to actually automate also the renewal parts. In general, this might be a useful extension, but what we like to do here is to use it in conjunction with another proposal that we have that spawned from the lurk. For those who remember that, birds of a feather. And in this is needed to allow cloud service providers or CDNs to obtain certificates for HTTPS delivery that bear the content provider name instead of their own. So today I've worked, this was synchronized, so we had a participant that was remotely providing the Acme Star implementation as an extension to Boulder and Certbot. While I was working on the other side of the protocol, the lurk bits, implementing them from scratch. Now we have the two bits together. There are still some moving parts, but we think we can already integrate them into an end-to-end demo, which comprises a portable mini CDN with DNS-based redirection and HTTPS delivery. This work has just started, and we plan to complete this by Singapore. Diego. Two.
Okay, so we'll go back to the SRv6. Okay, let me know when you want to switch. We can. I can't load both at the same time.
No, just before. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would just move a little bit though.
This is going to fall off if we're not careful. So,
Maybe you can do the other direction. Now, just move it a little bit here. I'm sorry, it's such a trouble. I need to read my notes. Do I need to ask a question? Hi guys, welcome to our segment routing IPv6 over NetConf presentation. Over the next 3 minutes, I am going to present our goal, which was when you take a DSL broadband LAN router, it usually does not have the capabilities like segment routing or NetConf. So we were wondering whether it would be possible to add this kind of functionality and how hard that would be. Also, we wanted to have a hands-on experience on segment routing technology. So those were our motivations. So what did we do? We took LAN router, which is very similar you can get from your broadband provider, and it was TP-Link. And we took LEDI, which is a firmware for a router which you can use to extend the capabilities of the router. We took the patch from David Lebrun, and it's a segment routing enabled patch which will allow to turn off this functionality on LEDI. Then, next thing we did, we wrote Young model, which is storing information we need in order to achieve segment routing. And in this particular case, it is storing IPv6 prefix and associated segment routing list. Then we took sysrepo, which is Young-based configuration and operational data store. And we wrote our own daemon, which is using the sysrepo hooks, which are triggered by netconf server netoppeer 2. And netoppeer 2 is something which will enable you to issue netconf commands on the router. So I can show you a small presentation, the video. How do I do that? Oh, you probably need to click. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is it. Can you make it full screen, please? Yes. So as you can see on the right side, there is our topology. We have a client which is acting as a controller, issuing netconf commands to router A. Router A and router B are two routers using LEDI, and all those technologies I talked about integrated together. So they understand netconf and they understand segment routing. What we are doing is that at the beginning, we are pinging this bottom interface from router A, and it is taking the green path, like that. Now, at some point, we issue from the client the netconf command, and the new routing path gets installed on router A, and the packet will immediately start to take the upper path. And as you can see here on the left, the new route got installed. And then you can also see these two TCP dump screens, which are taking packets from these two particular interfaces. And you can see, if you watch carefully, that actually one and the other interface are receiving packets mutually, depending on whether or not the segment routing is enabled. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have questions, feel free to stop at our table, which is in that corner. We are segment routing V6 team, and we can discuss use cases, why that would be useful to have a segment routing on endpoint. Thank you for your attention.
Judges, do you have any questions?
Is this a current working group?
Well, there is a Spring working group and there is segment routing. So we took what segment routing is discussing and we found a way how to implement it in the router, integrating all those technologies together and also writing our own piece, which is C repo. So the short answer is yes, it's Spring.
How many people are involved?
We are 3 people. Thank you.
Okay, our 451 status code, folks. Oh, yeah, this was an interesting one. We'll see how this works. You guys ready? Okay. Oh, here, let me make it full screen for you. And
yep. So HTTP status code 451 tells you if a web page has been blocked by a censor. And so we did stuff relating to that. There were some reports. You write some impact assessment.
Oh yeah, so we quickly analyzed the potential positive and negative impacts of the HTTP status code in real life.
Implementation reports.
So we built 6 different modules in all of which is a. Okay.
In the implementation report, we analyzed how the status code currently is being used and the impact the standards might have technically and whether they are compatible and whether the implementations are in line with the spec. And suggestions for improvement because a lot of things turned out to not be implemented in line with the spec. And we did edit a legal background with examples for India, Chile, Russia, Iran, and the US.
So we also had a bunch of different implementations, JavaScript crawler, web-based plugin for WordPress, which isn't just for a client, it's also for people on the server, block collector.
We're gonna, if we just get the screenshots on, and we can strip straight to them, and then we can. Yeah, let's go straight to the. Yeah. So we took all these together and specified 2 JSON formats that unify censorship reports from each of these disparate data sources. We ran one of the crawlers in Turkey to see the difference between countries, something that we intend to explore more, the difference between censorship both through complicit actions by companies and also independent filtering, possibly as an extension. But mainly this is to validate the specification RFC 7725. So if we move on, this is the JavaScript crawler. This is a simple output which shows you 3 resources that we found that were blocked, which is LGBTI content, and this was in Turkey. And there's the WordPress plugin. So pass on.
Okay, so the WordPress plugin basically allows site operators to, instead of taking down content, marking it as blocked, they can configure to block it in all countries. Some countries they can say which authority has requested the block and why. and they can choose if they want to report it to the registry. Okay.
And all of these data sources are united in a centralized data collection module, the block collector, which actually allows you to also report on these in real time, so you can track new censorship incidents and as they happen at that URL. And is the browser plugin?
Yeah. So the way it seems to work is that when you get to a web page that is blocked by or that reports 451, then you can report that to the block collector. And the Python crawler is pretty much just a desktop version of the web crawler and the JavaScript crawler.
We hope this is going to inform and bridge civil society and the spec world in weeks and months to come. So get in touch with us. We're right at the back. Thanks.
Thanks. What clarify something?
Yeah.
Clarify something for me. What I guess you crawled the web looking for web pages that were returning 451.
We crawl through a page looking for links on that page that return a 451 when navigated to.
Okay, and so what exactly did you do this weekend?
We added functionality to those we made the crawlers that go through the web pages, and the block collector also,
okay,
and the plugin. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Like a lot, like 10 to 12. Yeah, quite a few people.
So the implementation report, is that going to be a draft, or is it a draft already? Okay.
I think it.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, so the next one is the DNS team. You guys up and ready? Cool. Right.
Oh, this time. Is this good? Yeah, thank you. So these are the results of the DNS team. First, these are the participants, 18 people. Okay, sorry. It's in presentation mode here. No second. So what to take that? Now it's on. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. No, this is fine. Yeah. So we had a large crew, 3 new IETF hackathon participants. We're very happy with that. And with 18 people, your strength is also your weakness. So there are many people with many ideas and to work on. So we come up with a number of themes, but we worked on quite different subjects. First, I want to stress this. Education was actually also a good part of yesterday. So we really talked a lot with each other and with the new IETFers about what we have been doing in the past and where we are heading to. So that I want to stress that was important, and we spent some time there. Works on drafts. Sorry. So important new implementations of implementation of new drafts, like the elliptic curve ED 25519. Important to get implemented and deployed. Optimizations like DNS multiple queue type, so you can send a number of queries in one shot, good for performance. So we're working on the DNSSEC security, resiliency, and performance here. As we also more and more rely on privacy on the internet, and also DNS is working on that. We are working on that. More and more DNS queries will go over DNS over TLS. So TCP is important. TCP fast open has been implemented, not. And DNSSEC chain TLS extensions, a long name for the draft. It allows DNSSEC authentication, the whole chain authentication, in one shot. So the transporter here is not DNS, it's TLS. So you get all the DNS key material in one shot. You can do the validation by the application, for example, in web browsers. Very useful. And we worked on the CDNS capture format and retrofit DNS tab, which is kind of a monitoring, well, it's a logging format for the internals of resolvers and name servers. And we want to retrofit that in CDNS, which is an broadly supported, or it's a new draft, but it got a lot of attention and support here. So that's good work here. Did somebody already told you that there's a KSK rollover, 11th of October? Remember the date. Actually, it started already 15 days ago. I don't know, no, 10 days. So the new key has been introduced on the 11th of July. But there's some extra testing of all the software. It has been already tested, so we extended the testings also in the DNS test tool, Deckard. There's support for not resolver and for unbound. These are the timeline, we can skip that. What has been forgotten with all the standardization in the IETF is that we have some automated update of the trust anchor, of the root, for DNS operators, the chef cook. But we forgot to specify what to do for our end users, the end-to-end principle. We forgot completely about that. So how do we deal with applications that has to catch up with the new trust anchor? So we came, well, the RFC 5011 doesn't work, unfortunately. Well, it worked for the operators, but not for the end users. So we came with a zero-conf hack. So it allows applications which depend on the DNSSEC, etc., for DAME, to do kind of an automated trust anchor update. I won't go in all the details, but it will check if there's an update on the trust anchors. If necessary, it loads them and can do the whole authentication locally in the application. Some research innovation, no standards here. We experiment with opportunistic TTL. We don't know if it will ever work, but it's good to test ideas here also with our colleagues. And of course, study goes on. DNS privacy is important. So we've done some packaging and documentation to get it out and to be used by anyone, not per se DNS experts. That's it.
Any questions?
Yeah. So what part of this was done today? All of this, or?
So yeah, this weekend, going back. Actually, yeah, everything. By individuals, different individuals. So there was two people working on the ED, the new elliptic curve, the Edward curve. One person works on the Q-type. 2 people on the TLS extensions. For this work, also 3-4 people. Also the new people were working on the Deckard testing, etc. So there was a good energy, with a lot of work being done.
And the issues you found in 5011, did you write them up, and are you going to bring it
back
today?
Indeed. Yeah, that's indeed. We were thinking of that, and we need to document this, and indeed send in a draft to repair this or to document this and get the draft. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Did you see your name next in the list? Yeah. Dots. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I'm Kaname Nishizuka from NTT. We developed a Go implementation of dots, and it is named Go dots. So most of people in this room could be not familiar with the dots. So what is the the DOT. DOT is a DDoS open thread signaling. And so that is a signaling for standardization and automation of the signaling for DDoS protection. So it is to say ask for help from victim side to upstream provider. So it is inter-organizational. So inherently, it includes the authorization and authentication in specification. And vice versa, protection status information from the upstream provider to the victim is conveyed on also a DOT channel. So we opened the code. Yesterday, we just opened the code as an open source project. So this repository already have amount of code, but it is now open. So what was developed in the hackathon? We made the code easy to be deployed in various environments. So we made a kind of a Docker compose file to each services, and also we refined the complex part of configuration. And also we clarified the documentation because it is good for newcomers to this field. And also we made a demonstration of one user scenario. So it is the demonstration is on a portable Docker environment, so everyone can do that demo in everywhere. So the demo includes the triggering of black hole routing from victim side. So this is very interesting demo. So it attracted for people, and we showed them a demo in this weekend. As the next step, it is now OSS, so we'd like to adapt to the various deployment scenarios, and we'd like to keep going on the implementation of working group draft and make feedback to the specifications. And also your feedback is very welcome. So DOT is now getting popular, so DDoS protection is one of the biggest issues among network operators. So DOT working group is aiming to have interop testing as the next hackathon in IETF 100. Thank you very much. Yeah, mainly 2 people.
And you were implementing some of the drafts in the group right now?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. And it's nice to know that we already have some projects lining up for IETF 100 hackathon. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, the low pan. Okay.
Hi. It's not here? Okay. So my name is Laurent Toutin. Okay. Okay. Okay, so my name is Laurent Toutin. I will present you something we have done on SCHIC. So SCHC is pronounced SCHIC. And it has been done with Dominique Bartel from Orange, Philippe Clavier from the University of Buenos Aires, Arun from and Ivalo from Clio, and myself from the University MIT Atlantic. So we work on a new category of network, new family of network, which is called LP1, and that has been designed for Internet of Things because we have a very good energy, it's very energy efficient. For example, a device like this can run for many years on a battery. And there is also a long range, so you can cover cities or countryside very easily. So that's a very good technology for Internet of Things, and we have different technology, for example, LoRaWAN, Sigfox, Narrowband IoT, Wi-SON, etc., that exist and cover this requirement. The problem is that we don't have, if you want to write an application, you have to develop the application for this technology. So at the IETF, we have a solution when we have different technology and we want to run application on a single way. It's to use IP and to put application on top of IP. The problem is that when you look at LP1 technology, you don't have a lot of resources. For example, you can send only 1% of the time. If you look at one technology like Sigfox, you can send only message of 12 bytes. So it means that to adapt IP to this kind of constraint is very, very difficult. And that's why at IETF we have developed a technology, SHIC, that allows to compress for this specific environment IP, UDP, and CoAP. So we arrived to the hackathon with 2 implementations of SHIC. One has been done by IMT Atlantic, and it was running on Python in the device, like this one, on JavaScript on the core network. And Aclio brings its own implementation running in Golang. So what we have done during this in the hackathon is first to test interoperability between all these implementations. So we fix some bugs. We also move the application, IMT application. We also include Sigfox on LoRaWAN. So now we have device that applications that can run on all these kinds of device. And with Orange, we also test the Python implementation in the core network. So it's what we have done. And the result of the hackathon is that now we can test the solution on multi-technology. We also resolved some problem we have in the draft, we saw in the draft, is on the padding management. We have also seen some ambiguities about some variable length field. So we have to fix this. And finally, we have defined a reference implementation that can be useful for developing new implementation, and it's available on GitHub.
Thanks. How is this different from the demo you did from the last meeting?
It's different because we have now better understanding of CoAP. So now we have a full implementation of CoAP, bidirectional CoAP, all the things that are in the draft right now.
So this is different implementation that interrupts the one
yes.
you did last time? Okay, perfect, thank you.
We were 5.
Okay. And next, who do we have next? Okay, Mile. You guys ready? Great.
So let me talk about what we have done. We are working for Mile. So as you may know, Mile is a working group working for instant information exchange. And this working group has completed to define a format for instant information exchange. So we wanted to have a kind of converter that can be useful for the Sticks community and also IODEF community. So in this hackathon work, we did 2 work. First work is building a converter for a converter between IODEF and Sticks. And other work is extension to our own security tool that can output IODEF alert. So these 2 works are done, and all works are now available on the GitHub. And this is the status of the output. For the IODEF converter, we are able to provide a POC. So if we take a look at the draft has a lot of examples of IODEF documents. So those examples are supported by our tool. But IODEF and Sticks have a lot of classes. It was impossible to implement everything in these 2 days. So in these 2 days, we were only able to cover the converter for the examples in the RFC documents. Regarding the extension module for the security appliance of our company, we already finished producing an extension module plugin that can produce an alert in IODEF. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, and after Mile, not the README, so Riot. Okay. So, oh, I see. And you want to do this one first? Okay, got it. That full screen. Okay.
Hey, test. Okay, working. Hi, this is Peter from the Riot community. We worked on the reintegration of the OpenWSN stack in Riot. For those of you who don't know what is Riot, Riot is an open source IoT operating system targeted for low-end IoT devices such as ARM, Cortex-M microcontrollers, MSP 430 boards, or AVR 8 boards. And what is OpenWSN? It's another software platform for open source implementations of IoT protocols such as 6LoWPAN and else. And the interesting part for us from the Riot perspective was, or is, the 802.15.4e TISH implementation and the 6 TISH implementation of the stack, which we don't have in Riot right now. So the plan was to integrate parts of the network stack of the OpenWSN project here in the Riot into the Riot networking system. On the left side, you see the Riot networking system integrating our own network stack called GRRC. And the challenge was to adapt it to the northbound interface, so-called SOC. Here you can see it's CON. It's just a deprecated name. SOC is a generic network API. And the southbound interface, so-called NetDev, is a generic hardware abstraction layer for network devices such as 802.15.4 radios. So what efforts, what kind of efforts have to be targeted here? At first, there must be an automatic way to download the OpenWSN stack as a software package and include it into Riot. Then include paths, makefiles need to be adapted, and as I already mentioned, the adaptation of NetDev interface for the southbound adaptation and the northbound interface SOC. Yeah, and that is what we worked on the last 2 or 1.5 days. We didn't finish everything yet, but however, we had a cooperation of different open source projects. So guys from the OpenWSN community, external community members from the Riot team, and me, internal members, core developers of the Riot operating system. We integrated and migrated open access protocols developed by you guys, such as 6LoWPAN and stuff. And we used standard cooperative coding platforms. So in this case, it was GitHub. Yeah, and that was it. Thanks for your attention.
Yeah, so why did you do it? Like, what's the benefit of pulling OpenWSN into Riot?
Because we are missing a TISH implementation in Riot. Partly, I guess. Who's student of you? Honestly, I don't know who's student and who's research assistant and who's just a community member. I'm a research assistant at the Hamburg University of Applied Sciences.
So maybe it's easier if I ask how many university people were involved.
So me, Tangfei, I don't know if you work in the university, honestly. From my point of view, it was just any member of a community, open source community.
Right. Now we have Riot Part 2. This one, right?
Hi, so my name is Cenk. I'm from Hamburg. This is Chris from Basel. This is Claudio and Ballas, also from Basel. So we worked on the better ICN experience in the IoT. There's already ICN. For those who don't know ICN, this is an information-centric networking. It's a paradigm shift, moving away from addresses on the network layer, like we have an IP away, and giving names to everything. So we have names on the network layer. This is ICN. And what we do, or what we did is, so like I said, there is ICN in the IoT, but what we want to do is compress packet headers, because currently in NDN formats, this is one of these implementation for an ICN approach, are kind of verbose, so they are the type length value based. So this is, you always have variable length names in header packets, and in the IoT we have link layers that have really small sized NTUs. So we think that this won't scale. And what we do is we have what we did is we designed the name compression for these packet formats, and we also omitted fields in the packet formats, like it's done, for example, in the 6LoWPAN, for 6LoWPAN in IP networks in the IoT. The results that we gained is, we did a prototype implementation in CCN Lite, which is an implementation, a very lightweight implementation of this ICN approach from the Basel guys. And we did this in the Riot environment. So I'm a core developer of Riot. These are core developers of CCN Lite. So this was a really great match to meet today. We have a basic or a simple calculation that we achieved with our compression. So we have like a 28-byte packet, which is sent in the NDN, as an NDN packet in the IoT, and we compressed it by 50%, so down to 12 bytes. And this is just a simple packet. So we already drafted up a really small text, which we are going to submit maybe tomorrow as a 0.0 draft to the IC Energy, which also works on this. So what are the next steps? We want to finalize the implementation of this compression format or scheme, and further work on the draft. Furthermore, we are going to meet again, so in the next weeks at other hackathons, and probably at the Riot Summit, which is soon. And we think that we can give back to the community and submit the drafts, and let's see what happens then after receiving the feedback. So, any questions?
So, who's doing the decompression? Did you implement this on some other, like ICN forwarder somewhere else? Like, because like you're doing it on the constraint node side.
Yeah, on the node itself. Yeah.
Did you implement the other side of it, like which decompresses, or does it go compress all the way?
So it's similar like what's done in 6LoWPAN. So it's a hop by hop compression. So after receiving the compressed packet, you can decompress it. So the whole network stack sees it as a normal NDN packet. So the NDN network stack can stay the same actually.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
How many people were involved? Is it you guys?
Well, we worked. We have 4 guys, but we worked like hundreds. So.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, SDN apps. Ready to go? Okay. Well, just give it a minute.
Okay.
Hi.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce about our project. We're working on SDN applications for microwave radio link via IETF young data model. So our table is just right there. And the project is formed the members from the following five companies and university from Carol's 3D Madurai. And microwave link is a technology which is widely used for backhaul purpose. And nowadays, there are more than 60% of base stations were connected with microwave links. So it's very necessary to define a young model for the microwave link. This is what we do in IETF CCAM group. And last June, there was a design team set up to work on this work. The radio link, and we have two drafts, the framework draft and the young draft. Both were adopted in CCAM, and we also have an article published in IETF Journal. And coming into nowadays, we feel it's the right time to have the hackathon activity to validate the model we have defined in CCAM. And this is what we plan to do. The two key points is that first we need to implement the young model within the ODL controller. Then based on that, we will develop two use cases. One is for energy efficiency, which is to save the power consumptions. Another one is to control the frequency. The purpose is to control the interference between the radio links. The result is that we have successfully implementation of the young model. So we cooperated with IETF drafts together with the open source software. And then we developed two applications, and it was successful. We have run the test. You could see the figure on the right. And we also successfully bring the industry vendors, even we are competitors in the market, and also the university into this project. And also three of us is first IETF. What we have learned from this project is that we found it might be better to optimize the way to configure the ARC's frequency. Another part is that the model might need additional attributes, for example, the statics. And we're also thinking about to use REST API instead of the RESTconf. For the next step is one is to cooperate with some other packet interface, and also to improve to the model with more statics attributes. And finally, we are also thinking about to contribute back to the ODO project. And that's one I would like to thank for the team members. Without your effort to make this hackathon project to happen. Thank you.
So, like, did you interrupt this in ODL with like other equipment that also uses ODL? Like, have you set up like a mixed, fixed and microwave link? Or
this model is only for microwave link.
Okay.
Yeah,
but ODL does support other stuff, right? So, have you tried interoperating this with something else?
Yeah, if you want to incorporate with other technology, I think we need to have a kind of a multiple layer controls to cooperate on that.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Right. You next. AMT, all right. Just you doing that presentation. Nice job. You can roam around. Just to advance the slides, John.
Slides.
Oh yeah, that's true. All right. So John and I did a proof of concept on delivering multicast in a network simulating his Comcast network. So we're using AMT as a new standards track specification, RC 7450, and the Spring segment routing work is the way he would like to transmit it in his network. This is our topology, and basically I've got the problem I'm trying to solve is that when you multiply a 20 megabit 4K video stream by 200 million viewers, you get 4 petabits, and I'm hoping to solve this with multicast, and part of that is getting multicast delivered within various carrier networks, and so that's what this project was about. John has some technical difficulties with doing native multicast within his network, but he is interested in transmitting it multicast over the CMTS. But what he wants to do is have it done by segment routing within the network. So what we wrote was I have a sender. I have no multicast connectivity from my sender, but I open an AMT tunnel to a gateway, and this is using the open source AMT project that I've been working on. And then within his network, the ingest point, I've hacked the relay so that I have a unicast connection to the home router. But the unicast connection to the home router, as it gets joins and it's receiving the traffic natively, it will push it out with the proper shim so that it will get routed through his network the way he wants it to. So it's really that's the basic idea. So for this weekend, I ran it on OpenWRT ran the gateway on OpenWRT for the first time. That went fairly smoothly. Some of the setup was a new thing, and then the shim layer was a new implementation. So it's just John and I, and it's not done yet. His boxes got delayed on the shipping, but we'll be setting it up in the lounge and finishing it up hopefully this week. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to talk about it. Any questions though?
So why can't AMT directly terminate on the CMTS? So I'm just trying to understand the role of
Oh yeah. So we want to ingest from the sender just once, and then have it sent throughout his, or maybe a small number of times, and have it sent throughout his network with the fan out happening within his network. So it's going to get sent once to each CMTS within his network, and then we don't want it to have to come from our sender all the time. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, and Jake put in a good plug for the continuing the hackathon over during the week, right? Here in the lounge, we'll have an area set up where people can do that, and some equipment too that you can take advantage of the Comcast network like Jake is. Okay, so next up, you hear this one? The Cozy Swarm. Okay. Let's see.
Thank you. So this project was about another IoT related thing where you might have many devices that sleep most of their time, and you have to wake them either periodically or by radio messages. And when you do that, you get the problem that if you have the last hop router R here in the middle, that every packet that it forwards to the sleeping device D may wake up or will wake up that device and then drain its battery. So you only want to wake up the device D for IP packets that are the sender is authorized to send to D. And what we did was that we implemented a small draft written by Karsten Bormann that just says how to use CoAP and a new proposed CoAP option to transfer an authorization token, which might be some sort of COSI web token, to the device, or more precisely to R, which has to check if the token is valid and the sender of that packet is allowed to wake up the device D. What we had before the hackathon started was some proprietary software on the control node C, the node that generates the packets, some sort of routing software on R that uses some radio protocol to wake up the device D, which was an entire black box. And what we did was that we wrapped these proprietary PDUs in CoAP messages, added the authorization token, then checked the token on R, and only if that token is valid, then the packet has been forwarded to D. So we had to intercept those packets with IP tables, then do the CoAP wrapping and unwrapping and checking the devices, the tokens. We started implementing another COSI RC8152 implementation in Ruby for that. So this is work in progress. We didn't yet finish that, but this will be another open source COSI implementation that is a spin-off of this hackathon, and the entire CoAP wrapping and unwrapping has been done during this weekend. Thank you very much. Any questions? Two people have been involved this week.
All right. And that's not this one. Quick. Oh, sorry, time's up. All right. For those of you that don't know, Quick is a integrated security, transport, and application level protocol, all sort of rolled into one. So the working group actually tried to organize around this hackathon as a interop event. And so we made a wiki page up there that said what aspects of the current draft specifications we were interested in testing interop on, and we had a wiki page, yay! But we had 0 tested interoperable implementations, although we knew people were starting to do that. We didn't know what would happen when we showed up here today, but we wanted to find out whether 04 was reasonable or just kind of crazy talk. So we came, and we had somewhere around 18 folks representing clients, servers, CDNs, libraries, and that kind of thing come. And we managed to create that interop grid. So that's clients and servers in each direction, and the letters down at the bottom are certain aspects of what we were testing. So that was all blank and empty when we started. So that's pretty great. We came up with one new issue for the working group to consider that's in the crazy talk area, and a whole bunch of editorial clarifications along the way. The interop problems we had, we were able to sort out amongst ourselves, largely related to versions of TLS. It'd be great if we got a working group final call on that one to come out, and the various configurations thereof.
So, what are you doing with the broken ones or the stuff that's not? Are you going to continue this for the other DNC stuff everywhere? And
yeah, so actually we expect to keep doing this this format, and the things we'll test will grow in scope. So the wiki page was what we call the first implementation milestone, and we will create a second and a third. And the intention is to have interops in front of every working group meeting we do. So that's the 3 times a year
IETF plenaries, but we're also doing interims, and we're going to incorporate essentially an interop hackathon-like event at the front of each one of those as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I think I just heard of another hackathon project that someone's committing to have in Singapore, right? Because you need to do something before that meeting. Did I hear correctly? Okay, great. Oh. Oh, yes, thank you. See them coming up.
Hello, everybody. So this is the last presentation, or maybe another one. All right. So this project was about provisioning domains, captive portals, and having fun with this bunch of people from different companies, and including 2 IETF newcomers. So as you know, hosts today are multi-home. They can connect to Wi-Fi, wired, they can connect to smartphones, and even when they connect through a single interface, they can have multiple ways to actually access the networks through ISPs, VPNs, etc., etc. So when an application actually comes and asks, I want to connect to there, well, the networking stack is like, okay, well, I'll do best I can, but they cannot really do much. So really what the provisioning domains, or PVDs, are about is to identify the different ways you have to connect to the internet, not only the interface, but the way to connect to further internet, and their capabilities and the particularities of each way you have to connect to the internet. So the first step 1, is to put in the router advertisement, the IPv6 router advertisement, a new option which includes fully qualified domain name. And that's how you identify the PVD you are connected with. That is specified in a draft. It's the draft in interior working group. And there is also the point that you may want to send multiple arrays on a single interface in order to support multiple provisioning domain on a single link. And that's in a different draft. The step 2 is to actually retrieve from a PVD server JSON blob, which includes all the information that you want to know about the capabilities of the PVD you are connected to. So you get one HTTP blob, it's a PVD.json from each server. And then the project, part of the project was to put within each of those JSON objects URI to know if there is a captive portal, and if there is, what's the URI to connect to the captive portal. So what we did was first to implement that in OpenWRT, actually in LEDE. It's obviously open source. We implemented it in the router advertisement daemon, as well the possibility to have multiple arrays sent on a single link, as well as the user interface to configure all that. So you can configure it with CLI or the UI Lucy. Then we implemented a server. We configured the server to be able to deliver the PVD JSON objects and a very basic captive portal. So you would have multiple PVDs, so multiple captive portals in our demo. Maybe you will see it at the bits and bytes for whether you are smart or dumb, and you can access different access depending on that. There was support in Linux, actually we did an interop with OpenWRT and realized that what we did in Linux was not really good. So we fixed Wireshark, we fixed Array DVD, and we fixed the Linux patch that we did. You can see a screenshot of Wireshark. I don't have time to go through this. We implemented an easy way, kind of web-based UI to be able to decide what PVD you want to use with Firefox. And this is kind of a continuation of an hackathon we had 1 year ago already, and which was using a, let's say, simpler way to do it, less mature. So this is the continuation of what we did 1 year ago in the hackathon. Finally, we had as well some iOS support with the ability to parse the option, as well as some UI here you see to retrieve the information from the PVDs and display it to the user on the iOS platform. And finally, actually, we get support from Neat as well to put some information in the Neat information base. Finally, very quickly, some feedback from people in the room that we are going to integrate in the drafts, and time is out. Okay, 10 seconds late. Thank you.
So how do you get past the captive portal to get the PVD information? Because you're doing a HTTP GET. So how do you know the captive portal is going to let that thing through?
Well, we have to configure that. Like it's a special rule. You can access, just like you can access the captive portal URL, the IP address of the captive portal, you can access it. Well, you can also access the server that provides the object.
So you need a configuration on the captive portal to let this through, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like nine, I think. 8 or 9.
Okay, so there are several people who, actually before we go to yours, some people sent me slides that they'll still be presenting from my laptop. So I'm going to try to hit the ones where you are still presenting off of mine. The hackathon picture, SACM team, you guys here? And the idea is I just put this up and all you need is this picture, right? Okay. Yeah. Oh, there we go. All right. How's that?
Thank you. So, so for the last couple of days, we've been exploring something that we call a vulnerability assessment scenario. So it starts with effectively a vendor or a security researcher publishing a vulnerability bulletin, and then taking that information, enriching it with a query that you could use to match that against software inventory to determine if one or more endpoint devices are vulnerable, given the information that's available in that bulletin. So what you see here is the rough architecture that we've been building out over the last couple of days. On the left-hand side, you see a Rolly server. The Rolly server is based on a mile specification that we've been developing, which is really just a profile of Atom Pub, and it effectively allows us to serve up arbitrary resources that can support various security automation applications. On the right-hand side, you see an endpoint that was the target of our assessment, the endpoint for which we were collecting software inventory. Turns out in this case it was an Ubuntu device. And then we leveraged one of the specifications we've been developing in SACM called SWIMA, which is software inventory messages and attributes. So what SWIMA allows us to do is it allows us to collect the software inventory and transport it to a server. So the second box to the right is the server that the software inventory was transported to. The box immediately to the left of that, the second one from the left, is where we leveraged a product that allowed us to query the software inventory information from the strong TNC server to query the vulnerability detection information from the Rolly repository. So it acted as an orchestrator to do that work. And it allowed us to actually perform an assessment to match the vulnerability description to the software inventory that was collected. To do that, we used something called called OVAL, the Open Vulnerability and Assessment Language. So we were able to get all of that working together. But in doing so, we found a few things. So we identified a persistence problem in our Rolly implementation. It turns out that we could post resources to the server, but if we tried to update those resources, they weren't getting properly updated. So that's something that we need to fix. But overall, we were happy with the way the Rolly implementation was performing. The SWIMA implementation worked well. It allowed us to exchange the software inventory information. The syscat functionality also worked quite well. The lessons, though, that we learned was it was very difficult for us to develop a query that was actually useful in querying the software inventory using OVAL. So one of the things that we would like to to see SACM work on is to define a better query approach that would allow some arbitrary data store to be queried. So that's something that we're going to look at. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, it's just the same. That's not yours. You're this one. Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Jung. My team work for the I2NSF project this time. Okay. So this time we did previously last the Seoul meeting we started the I2NSF framework. This time we clarify the I2NSF interfaces in terms of their Yang model. So this time 7 graduate students are involved with this project, and so this is the poster. So I2NSF is for network security services framework, such as the packet is comes in, and then we can, depending on the policy, packet is forwarded to a firewall. If the firewall think this packet should be investigated more, such as a web filter, so it validated by web filter, and then return to a gateway and forward to destination host. So this is I2NSF framework. So this time, hackathon goal is we implemented the firewall using the open source IDS IPS. Open source code name is Shrikata. Also, we implemented the web filter. Also, we can combine firewall and web filter using SFC the architecture. Also, this time we use the extensible style shift languages transformations to translate high-level Yang policy into the low-level Yang policy. So we implemented 4 things this weekend. So we proved our concept of I2NSF framework using open sources. Also, we validated our I2NSF interface design, and also we showed the feasibility of data-driven approach, such as Yang data model. So this shows the open source course. Based on that, we implemented our I2NSF project. So this time, this figure shows the network configuration. This is an enterprise network, and then we can prevent the access of Facebook or YouTube during the work time. So based on the port number, we prevent access. Also, this time we also implemented IDS DPI based on the content-based security. If some the content includes Facebook, YouTube, we can filter out. So we implemented this over a weekend. So these figures, this is network topology. So if this access is some Facebook case, we can filter out using the port number. And secondly, based on the content, we also filter based on web filter. So if this is relevant to some Facebook or Google or YouTube, we can filter out. So we implemented this. So you can find more information. We documented and uploaded our source code on GitHub. Also, we have a demonstration video clip in YouTube. This is the slide. This time we learned, we proved concept of I2NSF framework using open source course, and also we validated I2NSF interface design. Especially we polished NSF, network security function phase interface for firewall and web filter. Also, we proved again Yang-based data-driven approach. Okay, thank you for your attention. Any questions or comments?
So I had a question about the policy itself. Like, have you considered use of SUPA, like for the policy?
Yeah, exactly. So our I2NS user, the policy, the data model is based on the SUPA Yang model. So our model is synchronized with the SUPA.
How much of the work was done this week versus like before? Like you said, like you had a lot of students offsite. Like, so how much did you do here?
Actually, the 7 students involved this time. I brought the 3 students and the 2 students remotely involved. Also, some researcher from Korea Telecom, he also worked for that. So this time we tuned our code for the hackathon. So previously we did something for some foundation code. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's you. Great. Okay.
Hi, I'm Hank, and we are also presenting results from work in the domain of a second work group. This work focuses on use of Yang subscriptions because we already heard that, for example, Strong Swan and Strong TNC is a workflow for vulnerability assessment in the scope of the security automation and continuous monitoring. But there's also this huge amount of predefined stuff you might be interested in for security. This comes from ops defined via Yang modules. So I will start with a ridiculously small diagram. So I'm not sure if everybody can read this. This is our, I had no time to recreate any diagrams. So I will just say that there is the lower location, which is here, this Prague. And this is the lower box, is the second domain we created. And then we have multiple international domains we acquire information from, which is one in the USA, which has actually a switch that provides a Yang sub interface. And it's from the People's Republic of China, which also supplies real life data we got flowing here and separated in this hackathon live. So both are using Yang subscriptions. The left side, the US location, we decided to use on-change subscriptions. And for the right side, we chose to do periodic subscriptions. Both are viable methods to get subscribed information via Yang push. And the goal here was to create so-called components that are collectors, which are these boxes here. One collector taking charge of PRC, one collector taking charge of the USA. And then, because the pub sub is a one-to-one subscription, we want to broker this vital information into a broker domain that is facilitated by the XMPP grid, also drafted in MILE. The thing here is that we have a lot of requirements we did not address yet. And this is the first time we had actual real data flowing through the system addressing, and this is just an excerpt, some of the requirements of the second work group. For example, data partitioning in regard to geographic location, which has actually been done because our demo spans the globe. So we are able to partition the information acquired in the broker domain of the XMPP grid via topics and subtopics or partitions. We composed the second collectors, which are multiple functions. One is a subscription to the Yang, one is a publication to the XMPP grid according to specific topics and content. We also do the information discovery, so the PX grid server, XMPP grid server can identify the information and relay it to the specific subscribers added to that. We do the push access, which is G11. We do actual component setups, so we have a generalized way now to combine functions in different languages. I think at the table was Python, C, Java, and even some Ruby glue code. So we are now able to pull all these functions together in a single component. And this component architecture is so generic that we will now have basically no threshold at all for the next hackathons to add future functions. For example, we also consumed the assessment results from StrongTNC that was provided by the vulnerability assessment scenario described before. Yeah, and this is basically our demo here today. It's running, it will be continuously working, and we can bring it to every place on the world again and start over with the same setup. Thank you. Question?
Okay, thank you. And let's see, you sent me an email, right? All right, so good afternoon. So I'm Benoit, and since the very first hackathon, we've been having like a Yang table, and I'm very happy about that. We start to have a team of people who are coming specifically for the, I mean, not specifically, but someone specifically for this hackathon. So that makes me happy as well. Now, what have we done? So in the world of automation and operation management, we have to understand that we might have data models, but it's not enough. We need to have the tool chain as well, and then all the metadata along with those data models. So basically, this is what we're trying to do with this Yang catalog. It's an inventory of all the Yang models from the IETF, from different SDOs, from different open source projects, even from vendors. We want to have the tool chain over there, and we want to be able to search, to see the impact analysis, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a one-stop shop for Yang models. What have we done? I like this team very much because it's very reactive. Yesterday, we had an IEEE meeting. We show our tool, and they said, you know what, you're showing like old ether type there. We give an example. Okay, I just call the guys there and say, okay, done now. You see on the right-hand side, give me only the latest revision of the draft. Now, we keep the old ones if you want to see the history of what's happening. So that's a typical reaction of the team over there. Another one, we receive like a request to say, well, you know, in Yang, we have like regex. These are W3C regex, not POSIX. It would be great to have like a kind of regex validator to see if the pattern that we've got in Yang are working fine. Okay, done. It's there. Go in the Yang validator. So you just type the pattern at the top right-hand side, and then, or multiple ones, and you see if it validates correctly, right? So this is pretty useful for Yang module designer, while some of the tools are good for Yang module users. We created an API for this catalog. These are all different things that we have in a Yang model, right? Okay, the name, the revision, any deviations, what is the organization, maturity level, and we populated that for BBF, for example, because the maturity level in BBF is different than the one in IETF. So what else do we have? Does it compile, right? What is the error? Who's the contact? Is there like code? So we're trying to populate all of these directly in the catalog, and we've been writing not only an API to write in the catalog, but to read it. So typically, we put all the non-extractable metadata from BBF in the catalog. That's a great way to interoperate with some other SDOs. But there are many other things we did. We had a request, for example, from Chin to say, can I get all the Yang models that are done in working group blah? We created the API directly to query all information from the catalog, including all the metadata. Done. We improved the validator at the same time. We worked on the integration of some Huawei and Juniper models. These are proprietary models, but at the same time, we improved our validator, which is a good thing. We did the full inventory of all these models, the full compilation. And if you see Peter there, it's a typo, right? We're working on a GUI as well. The last time we worked on a GUI to generate some code, some Python code to go and discuss with a router or a switch. The feedback was, yes, it's Flash-based, so maybe not. So we're working on this. We were supposed to get this integrated, not done today, but will be done like the next days. We worked on NUMA 1.3. We improved the Yang validator so that you could go and just post your draft and see if it validates. We work on it. Okay, I'll skip the detail of the tree type, why we need it, but yet another metadata we need to have. And we validated all the models from math and improved them. And the next steps is that, it's not for us, it's not like a 2 days hackathon. It's something that we've been continuing to do for a long time, and we will continue. But we'll be posting like tomorrow morning, whenever the window opens again, the finding about the APIs and the new set of metadata that we've been populating. And that's it before the buzzer.
So Benoit, if you go back to that slide that you had before, how much of that was done this weekend versus kind of ongoing work?
So typically the first two, the Yang search was done this weekend, the regex was done this weekend, and the APIs were done this weekend, but most importantly validated this weekend with the data from BBF.
Yeah, great, thank you. So now I believe everyone who sent me presentations, I think you got a chance to present, is that right? Wow, amazing, you actually got it right. So we do have one more presentation, which is gonna be extra special because there's a demo and everything. And so it can't be on my laptop.
Does anyone have a USB-C to VGA adapter? Oh, there comes somebody.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, cool. So I'm Tom Jones. I'm going to talk about what we did at the NEAT team, which is over in this corner. So we worked on quite a few things. We did some bug fixes to SCTP iData code, which is draft in TSVWG. We got the Python bindings to our library working. Woo! We did some work on provisioning domains, as you saw before, and we did work on our WebRTC implementation, which we have a demo of at the end. So what is NEAT? NEAT is a socket API replacement. It presents a single callback-driven API to the network that supports a load of different transport protocols. To make that work, it offers automatic selection for transports and interfaces, and it offers fallback to make sure that everything comes together and works. And NEAT is a tapped implementation. So this weekend, I worked on adding PVD support to NEAT. For NEAT to offer selection, it has to learn things about the network. And all of the selection decisions we do are informed by dynamic policy. The dynamic policy is fed characteristics. So a NEAT-enabled system can get these characteristics from its local network interfaces. And now after this weekend, we can look up over HTTP characteristics fed by PVD into NEAT. So the upshot of this is that a NEAT-enabled application can automatically, for free, take advantage of a PVD-enabled network, which is a big step.
So we also added support for peer-to-peer communication, in particular WebRTC for NEAT. It is implemented in C, so we have a native WebRTC data channel implementation written in C, and it makes use of the unified NEAT API. So you can write a WebRTC application in the same way as you write a TCP or UDP application. And it's interoperable with any web browser we tested so far, except Safari. We did not test yet, but we plan to do so. And I would like to give you a short demo. So we have a Raspberry Pi here, which the Raspberry Pi has an attached sense head. Sense head means there are several sensors and LED display, and we read the sensor data of the gyroscope, and we display it in the browser, and the communication is done via WebRTC. The sensor data are sometimes a bit weird, but if you see on the screen, if I move the Pi a bit, the sensor data, that the graphs change, so it works. And this data is transferred by WebRTC data channel peer-to-peer between the Pi and the browser. Questions?
How does the application code look like? Do you have something to show right away, or like it's okay if you cannot? But
I will try to connect to the Pi.
That's fine. It's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so and maybe just another round of applause for all the teams and these great presentations. Cool. Okay, so now our judges, we need to give them a few minutes to deliberate. And thanks to all the great presentations, the downside is we are a little bit behind schedule, but I think we can probably make up some of that time. So just a couple of things before we close. I'll get those out of the way while they're doing their judging. So I don't know if you noticed that the T-shirt I'm wearing, it's actually from the first hackathon that we did. It was in Dallas just like a little over 2 years ago. And I remember going around and, like basically begging people like, hey, please, we're trying to do this thing. Can you show up, maybe lead a project or help some people? And we managed to get, I think, like maybe 40 people, which we thought was great. And we thought, wow, this is actually pretty cool. We should continue this. And now fast forward, and here we are. And, I think everyone had a good time, but, the complaints I heard was that it's too hot, it's too crowded. It's just, to me, it's a sign of phenomenal success. There's almost 200 people here. We have almost as many project presentations as we had people total at the start. So just phenomenal to see all of you coming out. And the hackathon really doesn't work unless we have the champions volunteering to lead the projects and all of you coming. And still crazy to me that we all spend our weekend doing this. But it's fantastic, and glad that you feel passionate about it. And so thanks to all of you. So, we will be having the next hackathon in Singapore, and I hope a lot of you will consider coming to that. One tough thing or challenge with the hackathon growing is that it continues to cost more money to run it, because we eat and drink a lot and take up space and breathe air and use a lot of power. So we are looking for sponsors, and we actually didn't get any sponsors this time. We got, and if you sponsor, you get the privilege of like putting your company or logo up there and you can show it. But really, not all joking aside, we do need some sponsors. We would really appreciate it. I'm not exactly sure what the form of sponsorship will look like, but if you're, I think you guys are all sponsoring just by being here, and especially the champions. But we are looking for people who are interested in companies to donate some money for Singapore and beyond. And Joe, are you here? Because he will be, yeah, could you come up here and just say a few words? I'd like you guys to get to know Joe, because he'll be in charge of this. And even if you're not the right person to help with getting to sponsorship, maybe put him in contact with people at your company who are, and we'd appreciate it. But turn it over to you, Joe.
Hello. I don't have much more to add really about that. I mean, it is a great event, and we do need some support, financial support, as you said, as well as participation. If anybody has an employer who you think might be in a position to do something, and I think don't presuppose what the nature of the contribution would be. It could be tools, it could be infrastructure, it could be hardware, it could be money, it could be all kinds of things. It could be prizes. Yeah, exactly. So we are open to any kind of support at all, because I think, in some sense, a diversity of different kinds of support is better than just a lump of cash. So you can tailor this to whatever suits your organization. So if you do have any thoughts, you want to talk more, or either at the meeting, I'm here till Friday, or at any other time, I have just received what I think may be the first personal email address at IETF.org. You can reach me at jably@IETF.org. So there you go, that's a thing. And send me email, and let's talk about what we can do to support the whole thing better. Thanks much.
All right, thank you. All right, and let's see, because we are running late on time, some of the stuff that we might normally do after the awards. Barry, are you here? Would you like to? Oh, that's right, you're one of the judges, sorry. And Suresh is supposed to say something too, but he's also a judge. Okay, are you guys ready? Okay. So, the other thing, I'm always looking for suggestions and help to make things better in the future. So, any comments? And I don't mind some real criticism, as long as it's going to help me do better next time. What did you guys like? What's getting to be a problem? If you want to share something now, that's great. If you'd rather meet me for a beer and talk that way, that's fine too. But does anyone have anything they'd like to share, or suggestions, or gripes? There's got to be some gripes. Maybe you're wondering what you have a chance to win. So just to speed that up, like I said, we don't have much in the way of prizes this time, but I do have 5 social tickets. And so if you're looking for a social ticket and you're one of the winners, that's something you might want to consider. Other than that, it's kind of warm, and instead of the shoes you're wearing, you might want some flip-flops. And we got a bunch of flip-flops in the corner over here. So you can have a pair of flip-flops. And so like I said before, in terms of sponsorship, prizes is something that might be handy for next time. T-shirts too, but the T-shirts, like I said, we will be getting. They'll probably just be here tomorrow. And as soon as they do get here and I have them and I know like they're in hand, I'll send something out to the hackathon list and let you guys know. But this area here turns into the lounge. And so we will have an area here in the lounge for people, like for the hackathon to basically continue, right? So you can, if you want to continue to work on your projects or any project and just be able to meet and talk with others who are working on code. We're also going to have the networking equipment that that the Comcast folks have brought and that we usually have at Bits and Bytes. It's going to be here in the lounge in case you wanted to take advantage of that. We can spin up VMs on it. If you want to take advantage of a DOCSIS network, you have that. You saw what Jake was doing with his project. If that is of interest to you, you can do that as well. Chris, you want to talk about it? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's not for today. We have to get out of here today anyways. So tomorrow it'll be here at some time. So we'll let you know when that's available too. And then Bits and Bytes. So several of you have told me that you want to demonstrate something at Bits and Bytes. Assuming that's, I tell you what, because I'm going to forget things, send me an email if you haven't already saying, hey, I want to demo our project at Bits and Bytes. And the way it works is Bits and Bytes, it starts at 7:15 on Thursday and runs to 9:15. So the doors won't open until 7:15, but if you're demoing, you can get in there like around 6:30, 6:45 to do any setup you need to do. So what you do is you send me a single slide that kind of summarizes what it is, or at least announces what your demo is, and then you can come and set up whatever you need on the table. And hopefully I'll be able to get enough space for everyone who wants to present to do just that. So if you're interested, send me an email and we'll talk more. And it looks like Barry's ready.
Okay, present anything? No. So, okay, we have, as usual, we have informal, very not a big deal awards to give out. This time there are no physical awards, it's just words from me, and you get to stand up and take some applause. So first I just want to thank everybody, all the projects, for all the work you've done, including the ones who didn't even present here. I know there were quite a few. So we had a lot of projects this time and a lot of participants. Thank you. Okay, let's start with a silly one. Best name. Waiting for Go Dots. So thank the Dots people for coming up with that one. For best new work, we have the HTTP error code 451 people. Thanks for coming and doing that and engaging the human rights stuff in the hackathon, which is kind of novel, I think. Best university work, we have, I think we've given this to them before, is the I2NSF people, wherever they are. Thank you, I2NSF. You can guess which group got neatest work. The neatest work was the Neat Taps people. Thank you for that. For best interoperability work, Quick. For best continuing work from previous work, the SCHC people, SCHC, so thank you. And finally, best overall work to the SDN microwave radio link people. So, and so you can all not pick up your trinkets that we do not have. Thanks, so we have flip-flops. We actually do have some social tickets, so should we give? So the best overall group, if you have people who need social event tickets, we have a few that Charles can give you, so go see Charles. And is that, here, do you want to say any more, Charles?
Okay. Yeah, and just a reminder too, flip-flops are by the door, and I don't think we're gonna exhaust the supply, so whoever wants a pair of flip-flops, help yourself, they're by the door here. So, newcomers thing is just outside and starts in a few minutes, so we're gonna just call it quits here. Thanks everyone for coming. Please put the please put the hackathon in Singapore on your calendar. It'll be the weekend before the IETF meeting starts, just like it always is. And hope to see you there, and good luck the rest of the week.